What if the Sepoy Rebellion succeeded? Picture this. You are a British colonist living in India under the rule of the British East India Company in the mid-19th century, when you see an enormous mass of Indian soldiers, called sepoys, headed toward New Delhi. They are massive, well-armed, and angry with British rule, and they want out. Many people don't know about this, but the Sepoy Rebellion of 1857, also known as India's First War of Independence, was waged against the British East India Company and almost succeeded in overturning the rule if it weren't for a lack of cohesion. We are asking, what if that rebellion actually succeeded? Well, some background. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 was a major but ultimately unsuccessful uprising in India between 1857 and 1858 against the rule of the British East India Company, which functioned as a sovereign power on behalf of the British Crown. The Indian Rebellion was fed by resentment that had emerged from British rule, including invasive British-style social reforms, harsh land taxes, summary treatment of some rich landowners and princes, and broader skepticism about the improvements brought about by British rule. Many Indians did rise against the British, but many others actually fought for the British, and the majority remained seemingly compliant to British rule. For example, in the state of Punjab, Sikh princes who aided the British actually provided troops and support for the British because they hated the Hindus that were leading the Sepoy Rebellion. So again, there's a lack of unity thing going on. Many Indians were fighting against themselves and did not see themselves as part of the same nation, as part of the same people. They were just as different from one another, supposedly, as they were from the British. Now, without that lack of unity, the rebellion would fail again. The only thing that can guarantee victory in the banding together of most, if not all, Indian states against the British. Since 80% of British East India troops were Indians, it is hopeless to see how a truly united India could prevail after the rebellion. So the British are out, and there is a power vacuum left. Around the city of New Delhi, the puppet Mughal leader Bahadur Shah, who was in his 80s at the time, consolidates power in an infantile and weak version of the Mughal Empire. Now, the Sepoys' original aim was to revive the Mughal Empire. However, it would be hopelessly impossible to attempt to try so, due to the deep divisions that ran in Indian society. The power of the Mughals would be restricted to a great extent to the north of India, in the region surrounding Delhi. In the south, independent states such as Hyderabad would still reign, and religious differences between the Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs would boil over into anarchy. Now, in this chaotic state, the British will likely attempt to regain control and consolidate their power. However, it is most likely that they will fail. This is because any protracted war would come after years of the unpopular Crimean War, and the British public would have none of a long Indian conflict. Even though the British government would be furious at the incompetence of the British East India Company, they could do little but to continue to influence and subjugate parts, but not the entire continent. We could see rival powers like France and Portugal make their own inroads into the continent in this timeline, setting up more of their trading posts and conquering their own princely states. In this modern era, India does not exist as we know it. In place of one cohesive nation, we see several dozen small nations, each different from one another as nations can be. It was the era of British colonialization that really and truly brought India back together. The era of the Mughal Empire had ended effectively around the mid-1700s, and after their severe weakening, India was basically a fractured and disunited area. The British acted as the second Mughal Empire, filling the central role and unifying different groups in a manner that was desperately needed to create the sense of an Indian nation. If India were to win the 1857 rebellion, it would actually hurt the floundering nation more than help it. Well, that's my take on the topic. Make sure you subscribe for more great content. This is Scholar of the World, signing out.